Hypnotizing cheaters. Can a cheater be hypnotized to confess his infidelity or her infidelity using hypnosis? And we're going to talk about a visit to the Hypnotic Art Gallery. This is episode 284 of the Brain Software Podcast. We're going to talk about awesome stuff here today. Can you use hypnosis to help you fall asleep? And an awesome reframe from best-selling author Mel Robbins, as well as how to get discounts when you're not supposed to.
I like it.
Let's get started, but first, your disclaimer.
Disclaimer, everything that we're going to say is true, and even the things that won't resonate with you will be useful. Lucci.
And French President Emmanuel Macron turned to me and he said, "Mais vous demandez un capote noir pourquoi?" Est-ce que je réponds, parce que ma femme, elle est morte. Macron, dis-moi, votre femme est morte. Monsieur, quelle finesse. But whatever happened to that old French letter we used to love to wear?
Ce sont les jours de victoire. So let's get started by calling to the stage a man who hasn't used Crayola crayons since 1962. A man who once thought silly putty was the greatest invention ever. And the pretty bad boy of hypnosis, Mike Mandel. Yes, bad boy of hypnosis, referencing the band Goddo,
and the
song Pretty Bad Boys, which is Canadian. You know, for those of you missing out on your Canadian rock history, check it out. There's them and Corey Hart.
Oh no,
freaking Celine Dion. No, that's just kidding. Not our style. All right, let's talk about what's going on here today, Mike. So we are going to talk about. In fact, we already teased it at the beginning, so no need to repeat that. Let's just dive straight into hypnosis in the news. You had an article about David Spiegel talking about self-hypnosis that you're going to pull up here on your iPad. Yeah. We'll talk about that. Meanwhile, just while you're getting that up and ready, the Architecture of Hypnosis in Toronto, it's our 5-day training that is in November, is at least half sold out now. It usually doesn't sell out until kind of 2 months, 1 month before, but things are accelerating. So you're not going to want to sit on it too long. The masterclass is already full, which runs concurrently with the basic class. So the first time you take the class, you're in the room with us learning for the first time, perhaps, but you're also in the room with a bunch of people who are taking the class a second time and doing awesome things.
Other things, yes.
So anyway, the master class is full. The regular class, of course, concurrent, still has spots, filling up quickly. Check it out at MikeMandelHypnosis.com, and then you'll find the events page. The other thing I want to mention is that we have now been live with the new Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy. Not so much the academy that's new, but the offer is new, which is you start with a $1 trial. And after 1 week, it bills you. And you get everything, all of our digital products in one membership, where it didn't used to be the case. So there's your quick promo. All right.
That's great, man.
David Spiegel and self-hypnosis.
David Spiegel, MD, Stanford psychiatrist, hypnosis expert, I will agree. He's been doing it for over 40 years, so he's a relative newcomer in my life. But he's got it down. But he's talking about how powerful it is, and I totally agree. But he's talking about this as this self-hypnosis exercise to fall asleep. So I thought, okay, this sounds interesting. I like to follow hypnosis in the news. But it starts with.
I thought you were going to say I like to fall asleep.
Starts with this sentence: self-hypnosis may sound like a suspicious concept. What the heck does that mean? Like, what does that even?
Now,
he's not saying it.
Okay, so this is the journalist trying to create an interesting hook, I suppose.
I guess so.
Self-hypnosis sounds like a suspicious for who? Well, if I use hypnosis on myself, I'm suspicious. To myself. This is weird.
You're getting the point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So that's weird.
He has some good stuff here. He talks about people fall asleep easily, and but he said if you want to do this method, now here's what he said: it's hypnotic. I'm just questioning how much hypnosis is in this. He said, first, imagine you're in a good environment, floating in a bath or a hot tub or floating in space.
Good imagination.
That's fine.
Very nice.
Relaxation. Practice what he calls a cyclic sigh or cyclic sigh. Now, what does that mean? Inhale halfway, hold your breath, and then fully and slowly exhale through your mouth, and you'll trigger a parasympathetic response. Okay, I understand that. It's reminding me of Huberman's method with the physiological
calls it the physiological sigh, but he has a full inhale. Well,
half, and then
the little sniffs, and then a full inhale. Why
I don't see the point of doing half.
Why would you avoid filling your lungs? Is it explained?
No, but I guess then you can restrict your oxygen intake.
Yes.
That would be helpful.
If anybody knows of a reason why David Spiegel is suggesting a half breath, this would be interesting interesting to know. In our experience, it's better to take the full breath in, whether you
have
do
a longer exhalation.
Yeah, whether you do the Huberman method of the two half breaths first, or if you just take one full deep breath in, followed by a slow exhalation, that's what's activating your parasympathetic nervous system.
No, that's right. And he does say focusing on your breathing can inherently turn your attention away from worrisome thoughts. I agree. There's a better way of focusing on your breathing, I think, and I'll say at the end of this. But so he's acknowledging any negative or stressful thoughts that come in. You acknowledge them rather than focusing on them, trying to come up with solutions. So he says to project these intrusive thoughts out as though you're watching them on television. So it's built-in dissociation.
So the idea, let's just break this down for anyone new, that by doing the breathing thing and focusing on your breathing, that starts to create a trance anyway. There are better ways to do it, of course. But once you're in the trance, so-called trance, what do? Right? Well, you let your unconscious project these intrusive thoughts, and you're seeing them out there, and then what? He's basically, because he's not saying start to consciously think about them, it sounds like he's saying let them show up.
Right. But he talks about putting them on a screen out there instead, which makes sense because you're building a dissociation.
Imagine they're out there on some screen.
Yeah. And he said, he's got some good points. I mean, this kind of stuff would work, but I think it can be improved upon. I think the breathing one, and I don't need these on anymore, the breathing, the best way to focus on breathing, I've heard for years, focus on your breathing. Just keep focusing on it if you want to relax more, if you're trying to fall asleep again. And it was one yoga thing I read somewhere that made it easy. How do you focus on your breathing? What do you focus on? Here's what it said. It said, when you inhale, focus on the cool sensation in your nostrils and warm as you exhale.
You told me that years ago.
And
you probably said it on the podcast.
Way easier to focus on it.
Yeah.
So I would say a simpler method than this that I know works because I've done it many times is focus on your breathing. As you breathe into your nose, focus on the coolness here. Then as you exhale, either through your nose or mouth, focus on how it feels warm because the air has become warm. As you exhale, just say the word sleep in your imagination. Yeah. That's it. And that will do it. That'll zap you up pretty quick.
Definitely. Yeah. And then was there some comment you wanted to make about the idea of these intrusive thoughts and how they were handled? Well, because that seemed to not make a lot of sense to me.
I just see it as an unnecessary add-on.
Okay.
If intrusive thoughts come, you've used this with your self-hypnosis methods, like the kid kicking your chair, and so you just utilize it.
Yes, for sure. And what I will tend to do, if I want to resolve some sort of, let's say, bunch of stuff going on in my brain, I would just let my unconscious present me with any thought. Now, if the thought was a good thought, I would move it over to another screen on the right, which to me represents the future anyway, right? So we tend to read from left to right, therefore in my brain, pushing something onto a right-hand side of the screen and amplifying it, that's a good thing. If a thought, I'll leave it there. If another thought comes in that's annoying or intrusive in some way, have it move into some sort of grayscale small and shove it far off to the left side of the screen.
Now, is your timeline left to right?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Mine isn't at all.
Yeah.
That's why I can't be detail boy.
There you go.
Big chunk guy.
Ah, that's interesting.
Yeah. I'm not going to change it, though. That's good. That's a good method. Anyway,
we have complementary timelines then. That's why we work so well together.
So we're not going to go over any more methods to fall asleep or anything. I just think that nose temperature thing is worth doing. And I do like what Bandler said. Richard Bandler said he found people who fall asleep readily, like me, and people who lie awake, and he found out what's the difference.
Okay.
And he said the difference is people who lie awake flash bright colored pictures in their head and comment in a rapid internal voice.
For sure.
And he said people who fall asleep readily focus on how cozy and comfortable they are and talk to themselves in a sleepy, tired voice.
Do you know what? Remember
fall asleep saying it.
When we were in the architecture of hypnosis a few weeks ago, our May class, and this is probably not going out until July now. When we were in that class, and I was explaining how I use a modification, so I won't even call it the Dave Elman induction, but how I take the basic progression, the basic progression of the Dave Elman induction.
All right.
And I use that on myself to fall asleep. I am at the point now where I can't even get past the eyelid fractionation.
Oh, it just happens
as soon as I'm supposed to be at the point where it would be in the real Elman induction, a hand drop.
Right.
And so I am about to imagine another me walking up, picking up my hand by the thumb, waggling it, and then dropping it splat down.
Yeah.
I don't even get every single time in the last 2 weeks I've tried to get through that, I just fall asleep before I even get there.
No, that's nice.
It's hilarious to me.
Don't you want to wake yourself up and say, you're doing it wrong?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It's anyway.
Losing the outcome. That's great.
Using a self-hypnosis to fall asleep is absolutely magical. If you need help power napping in the afternoon or falling asleep at night, or if you wake up, it's 3 a.m., you have to go to the bathroom or something, your head is spinning, you use these techniques, you'll fall back asleep really, really quickly. By the way, this is all included in our Brain Software Syndicate, which we'll make sure there's a link in the description. The Brain Software Syndicate is our all-inclusive community and course bundle for people who want to live better lives, but don't want to be certified as a hypnotist quite yet. So we don't include our Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy, but we include pretty much every course we have that is around personal development. And it's really, really low cost. All right.
That's really, really good as well. The final point on this, I just want to talk about the power of creatine. If you take creatine every day, as I do because of this guy telling me to, and Deb Halmo, a super fit friend, telling me to, I put my muscles back, I built my strength. But the main thing I've noticed that is amazing.
Better sleep.
Better sleep, better quality of sleep, sharper mind, definitely.
Yeah.
Creatine's great for the brain, but better quality of sleep with less time spent sleeping. So I used to always need 8 to 8.5, 9 hours, and that changed over the years. But now, if I get 6.5, 7, I'm just totally stoked.
This is interesting, and you're in your 70s.
Don't say that too loud.
Let's contrast that with my daughter, who is 20, who loves lifting weights, and she's fitness woman. She's awesome.
Both your daughters.
She's also a student, and she started taking creatine. And she said that she's sharper, same thing, and also can get by with less sleep. Now, sometimes during exam season or when she has to wake up really early for a clinical in the morning, being a nursing student, they start quite early when they're on clinical days.
Right.
The creatine has made a huge difference for her too, which is really cool.
It's incredible.
So
quality of sleep, less sleep, awakening, fully refreshed,
and dirt cheap, like $30 at 200 Costco for 200 doses. Because
pharmaceutical grade,
200 because is it 200 doses? Yeah, because it's 5 grams a day typically, and it's a 1 kilo package for like $30.
The first 4 to 6 days,
very cheap.
You load up more, but very cheap.
All right.
Let's talk about hypnosis for cheaters.
All right, we're going to talk about this hypnosis. So this came from a discussion in our community, MMHA Engage, where one of our students, very senior student, very skilled, and rightfully knew not to take this client on.
Yeah.
The situation here is, and we've probably got a separate YouTube video that we already did on this, so we'll have a quick discussion in this podcast anyway.
Okay.
The client was a woman, and she wanted the hypnotist to hypnotize her husband. Now, the husband was unfaithful, and the wife knew that the husband was unfaithful, but the wife felt that the husband hadn't really spilled the beans on all of the details, and she wanted full disclosure, full details.
What does that even mean, full disclosure?
I guess
if somebody's running around.
Come clean about all the details, not just some of them, and can you hypnotize my husband so that he will share all of the details and not just some of them?
Yeah, and confess to gliding. Yeah.
It just doesn't even make sense. I love it. I love it.
Thank you.
You guys have got to get into this pattern where you make words up or you apply words that don't make any sense. Much funnier when you make up the word that sounds like it should be dirty. And then let people's own imagination screw them up. It's really funny.
Were you gliding? Were you gliding?
Well, we'll get on to the other one after.
You almost poked me in the eye.
Yeah.
You see it on video later. You're like this.
So let's talk about this, Mike.
Okay.
Our student knew not to take this client.
She's a great student. Yeah, great.
And we raised really 2 points, right? So number one, if the husband wanted to confess all the details, why does he need to be hypnotized?
Well, he wouldn't need to. He just confessed to it all.
Right. Like if you want to read a book, you will read the book. You don't need to be hypnotized. You just want to do it. You do it. It's not a difficult thing.
Will you please hypnotize me to read this book I want to read?
Yeah.
It's like bizarre.
Anyway, so that was the bizarre part, obviously. The woman, the client, did not understand what hypnosis is versus is not. Thought that it was mind control, which is the key point of this conversation. The second thing, of course, being that even if you brought this man into the hypnosis room and hypnotized him and said, you will come clean. You cannot make someone do something they don't want to do. And I suppose that sort of ties into a third point, is which never, ever take on a client that isn't the one who actually came to you.
This triangulation. You cannot say, work with this person.
Right.
Every time I've been asked that, I've refused. It's ridiculous. Now, also, let's point out, it was Dave Elman, one of the greatest hypnotists of all time. He points out in his book, Hypnotherapy, that hypnosis is a consent state. In other words, they have to consent to what they're doing. You can't come in and just control their mind. That's mythology.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, you remember years ago, I was working in Kingston, Ontario, and 2 plainclothes police called me aside.
Yeah,
They
you were
looked like
working
bikers.
and you were about to do a stage hypnosis show at Stages in Kingston, which is now like a nightclub bar scene for the kids. But
It was then.
yeah.
Yeah, but I was a kid then. But, well, I wasn't a kid.
So you were about to do a hypnosis show.
called me aside.
And these 2 plainclothes officers come up to you and they go, "Hey, you Mike Mandel?"
buddy.
Yeah, hey, buddy. Hey, buddy.
So they said, when you go on stage tonight, there's a guy who's going to be here, and we know he's likely to volunteer, and we know this guy's a criminal. And they said, if we get him backstage afterwards, are you able to hypnotize him, put him back in so we can interrogate him? I said, well, first of all, it's impossible. He has control over his own trances. Everybody does. And the second thing is, it's completely unethical. If I did have that ability, I wouldn't do it because I'm not the court system. I can't decide, okay, this guy's guilty and confess.
Thankfully, it doesn't matter if it's ethical or not because it's not even possible in the first place.
Yeah.
So it would be sort of like saying, if I could touch my wall and make it turn to gold, would that be ethical? Well, I can't do it, so it's kind of pointless to even discuss.
Right.
But,
impossible,
But, we'll get back on track.
That's the same thing, though. Hypnosis for cheaters, hypnosis for criminals, whatever you want to say. It can't.
Don't work with people who haven't asked for help in the first place. If the wife wants the husband to make any kind of change, it could be stop drinking so much beer, stop watching so much TV, eat healthier food,
stop
clean
gliding.
up around the house. Whatever.
In that gliding.
If he doesn't want to, no hypnosis in the world is going to make him want to. And it certainly won't work if he's not the one that came to the hypnotist in the first place.
Right.
Yeah, we still get a few of these, less so now, but our students still get many of these where it'll be like, will you work with my son? Will you work? Which is okay, I suppose, if the son is a child or something.
That's different.
That's different. But will you work with my sister? Will you work with my aunt? Will you work with my
let's
colleague?
not hammer it home.
Yeah, no. Have them come to me. And actually, just scrolling through, repeat what you said in the YouTube video on this about the friend of yours who wanted you to work with her husband.
Oh, gosh.
And you said...
I said, I can't work with someone who isn't at threshold. Oh, he's definitely at threshold.
Meaning they want to change. Yeah. They know it has to be them. They know it has to change, and it has to be now.
They're ready. And she said, oh, he's definitely ready. I said, well, okay, just get him to send me an email or call me. Oh, no, he's just waiting for you to call him.
Yeah.
If you call him, he'll show. No.
Have him email me.
He wants,
have him call me.
That went back and forth, like 4 emails. Oh,
did he ever reach out to you?
He's absolutely ready to change. Get him to email me. Well, no, he won't email me. And it never happened. He never reached out.
It's
so he's
basically
still in pain.
like F off. If you're not going to get off your ass and do the very first thing, you're not a threshold.
Right.
That's BS. And someone else claiming you are is just as much BS.
You might as well be lounging in the lounge room on a freaking Lazy Boy glider.
You're just loving this new use. Where did you come up with this glide? Okay.
I think I got it from one of my students.
All right. Well, let's glide into the next section of this podcast then, which is, want to talk about art gallery and so the question here is, how does an art gallery help somebody overcome writer's block?
What's Reuters block?
Writer's block.
I said Reuters.
Reuters. That's like a news company.
It's a news service,
Reuters block. Writer's block. How does art gallery help writer's block? Oh, this is interesting.
Good question.
So should I tee this? Yeah. Should I tee this up for you, man? I'm having real struggles with my language.
Go ahead.
I'm going to tee this up for you. So we're running a program called MMHA Elite, which you can find on our website. It's MMHA Elite is basically live training with Mike and me and Timothy. And it's a smaller group. Mike teaches live and demonstrates live, and then people go off into breakout rooms and practice live. And we were doing we're in the midst right now of a 4-week session on guided imagery. And in week 3, I believe it was, you taught the concept of art gallery as a guided imagery process. You were looking for a volunteer, and we had one of our awesome students from the UK, Diane.
Yeah.
She's fantastic. And she volunteered. And you took her through content-free change work session.
Yes, I did.
And you guided her through this process, which you had no idea what was going on in her mind.
Content free, yeah.
And what did she report after the fact? First of all, I mean,
shocked by it, blown away by it.
It took her maybe 3-4 minutes just to sort of reorient going, whoa. And she was kind of laughing at some of the process about what happened in her mind, and then just mind blown and really surprised at what happened.
Art gallery is one of the cleverest things I think I've come up with. And as you can imagine,
one of them.
It's up against a lot of competition. But art gallery, you're hypnotizing the person, taking them through an inner journey at a metaphorical art gallery. Your voice goes with them like Milton Erickson. And they go through this gallery and they wind up seeing 3 different paintings that are covered with black cloths. The first one is the problem, or their perception of the problem. It's whipped off the cloth and they stand and look at it and absorb everything. They don't say anything. And then they get to the second one, which of course is the real problem, or the components behind the scenes in the problem that have not been noticed or acknowledged. And often people will tear up at that point, surprises them. And then they get to the third one, which is the solution.
And that's where the integration starts.
Right, that's the integration, yeah. And it's astonishing because the therapist does nothing but just offer these components of the gallery.
Now, the language is very, very artful and non-specific, but suggestive of the fact that this will be their perception of the problem in the case of painting number 1, the real problem painting number 2, and they get time, and you're calibrating them to see it and notice what's there. You have no idea what they're seeing, and you're not telling them what to see, and they have no idea what they're about to see.
And because it's covered, pops this up.
It's framed as something covered in a black fabric that you whisk away at a particular moment. And when you tell them you're whisking away the fabric and now look at the painting, their unconscious has to go through and do something and actually create a scene of some sort. Usually they get something and they don't know what to expect. And this is the cool power of the unconscious mind. In fact, the next episode of this podcast, we're talking much more about the unconscious.
Yes, we are. Yep.
So that'll be cool to stay tuned for. But she described, I don't know if we probably don't need to share any of the details about what she saw, but she wanted to plan this awesome, she called it writer's block.
Some kind of retreat, yeah.
Writer's block, really it was more like design block, I suppose, because she was designing this awesome retreat she wanted to do for her clients, but hadn't kind of written out all the details. And then when she saw what her perception of the problem was versus the real problem, she started laughing.
Yeah, and I remember her perception initially was, she said, a Caravaggio painting. Of course, being a culture vulture, I know exactly what you meant. I offered Velasquez as what mine would have been. But anyway, the third painting was really sort of almost pop art, David Bowie sort of thing. And it really shocked her.
Like hey, just be me. Just
it was
be
her.
myself.
It was her in the painting. Yeah.
And so she made big connections and had a fantastic outcome, as obviously evidenced by calibrating the surprise. Yeah. I just think it was really cool because I wanted to discuss it with you here on this podcast.
Yeah.
The nature of the unconscious mind, how this is going to tie so nicely into our next episode.
Yes, it is, Chris.
The unconscious does some weird magical things if you invite it to do them for you. And it can solve a lot of problems.
Well, yeah, and that's where the Ericksonian patterns of, metaphor and offering permissive language to someone has such a power because they do the work, and that's what it should be.
Yes, I like that. All right, where are we going today? Now,
I want you to talk about the Mel Robbins. Okay, this sort of reframe.
Yeah, let me offer this to you. So Mel Robbins, and I'd never heard of Mel Robbins until a few months ago. I assumed Mel. I guess Melanie. She's probably short for Melanie.
Not Melvin.
She's actually really cool. I really like her. I've been listening to some of her podcast episodes. This came from my wife, I think, who found out about the existence of Mel Robbins, read the book called The Let Them Theory, then passed it to my daughter, who also read it and thought it was really good. My mom has read the book, I know. So I read it. It's like, well, it's not just for women or something. It's written by a woman. It's useful for women, but it's also useful for men. So I read it. I thought it was a really great book. And I got into this, just side note, I had gotten out of the daily habit of reading. And so by incrementally starting my day by reading one chapter, this book was nice because a chapter was like 10 pages. So it didn't take very long. I'd have my morning coffee, read the chapter, and then move on with my day. And one morning I was reading a particular chapter. And what I liked about this book is she talked about what is essentially a really nice NLP style reframe. How often have we in our lives, you, the listener, watcher, me, Mike, you, seen something happen and felt like you made a comparison. Oh, that person got the promotion and that's not fair. That's annoying. Or why is that person in shape and I'm out of shape and fat?
Or they have the best house in the street and I used to have a good house.
Something like that. So what she suggested is that instead of letting that comparison drag you down, use it to ask better questions. What can you learn from that situation, from that outcome? So you simply spin it instead of a why am I the unlucky one, or why did that happen, which we would identify as stuck state questions, asking why questions. She's actually just really taking the same concepts we already know. So it isn't original material, but it's original in the way it's packaged,
the application
which I like.
Is really nice.
Stuff, you're not inventing anything new most of the time. You're just teaching it in a more effective way. And I really like the way she taught this. So you simply ask yourself, well, what can I learn from the situation that you were previously complaining about, or making a comparison that was helping you to feel crap about yourself? Ask a question on how you can learn, which gets you focused on what? Resources, aims your reticular activating system at the target state, the desired state, and actually gets you freaking moving. So it's a nice reframe. So Mel Robbins, cheers to you. And we, which really means me because you haven't read it yet, recommend the Let Them Theory. It's a great book.
Now that's interesting, Chris, because right now, I'm going through the same situation after prepping for Architecture of Hypnosis and power reading so many freaking books. I've not read anything since then.
You're
just like,
done reading.
Horrible. Yeah. So I'm going to take on that idea of reading a chapter every morning, which takes me about 20 seconds. But
exactly. Somebody with your immense reading speed. It's
everything. Scary.
Yeah, I hear you, because you prepare for the class, you power read so many books, and that's almost feels like the person who goes out and run. If you haven't done any training and you run a marathon, you probably aren't going to run for a bunch of weeks after that because of the pain that it caused you.
Okay, you ready for this?
Yeah.
If you try not to laugh.
Okay.
Zip your fly up, sailor. There's no marathon today.
Doesn't even make any sense. It's another one of these things that makes no sense.
I'm having a blast.
All right.
Okay.
But it's funny. All right. Let's move on from that then. So we talked about the idea of, instead of letting the comparison drag you down, use it to ask better questions. What can you learn from that person? What are they doing that you're not? Where's the useful signal in the emotional noise? That was a really nice line that I wrote down here. And the shift turns comparison into fuel. It becomes a teacher instead of a trigger.
I love it. That's really clever stuff.
The alliteration really helps people.
But we have a little commercial break now, Chris, and then we're coming back with more.
And now, the second of a series of new tales for children in the style of the Brothers Grimm.
This one's The Old Television and the Nitric Acid Test. A story written and performed by Bradley X of Meaford, Ontario. Yeah, so here we go. Once upon a time up in Shallow Lake, Ontario, there were two guys who always wanted to be big shots and do something significant with their pathetic lives. One was called Eddard, and the other was his cousin Deuter. Well, one day they went to Tim Hortons donut shop, each got a couple of Boston cream donuts and got the chocolate all over their hands. So because Eddard had lost his driver's license, he was driving the Rydam lawnmower with Deuter hunching over the back, and the steering wheel got all chocolate on it. So he got some old rags and that and wiped down the steering wheel and steering column as though cleanliness was suddenly important to him after a few decades of being a dick. But the rag he used was filthy and that, because he hadn't washed it in about 6,000 years. So he tried to clean it with some nitric acid, and the rag practically burst into flames in his hand. And he poured water all over the lawnmower so it wouldn't get wrecked. And then he was pissed off, so in an act of callous vengeance, he poured the rest of the bottle of acid on an old television set he found at the dump and basically dissolved it. And then Eddard and Deuter went back to Tim Hortons for more donuts, but there were some guys outside yelling some stuff, so they didn't bother going inside. The end.
All right, we are back, and I want to thank Bradley X for bringing us this awesome, just philosophical brilliance.
Fine stories for children.
Fine stories for children. All right.
Here's what I want to talk about. You had a really interesting, what we described as a battle royal.
Battle royal, yeah.
Between you and Bell Canada.
I did. Here's what happened. About 2 years ago, and by the way, so this is about getting discounts, which will save you money. So please go out and use this. We've talked about it before.
Lots
it's called the agree and repeat strategy. You can adjust it as needed, but it will help you get things that you want when someone else just doesn't have the persistence and willpower to keep saying no to you. So here's what happened. 2 years ago, right in this studio, which is my house, Bell Canada brought fiber optics right to the door.
Okay.
Or the side of the house.
Yeah.
So I signed up for it. We switched away from Rogers, which was cable modem. So it'd be like Comcast or Spectrum in the United States or Time Warner or whatever.
Yeah.
And so we gone from cable modem to high-speed fiber optic. I get like a 1.5 gigabits per second.
It's light speed.
It's really, it's
speed.
amazing. Yeah. It's fantastic. And when they gave it to me, these door-to-door salesperson, I knew I wanted to switch already. So I didn't need to be sold to, but I said, okay, what's the price? Well, it's the special price for here because we just brought in. All right, does that pricing expire? No, there are likely price increases over time, but you'll always get warning. It's usually like $5, and that did happen recently. Because that's fine. Inflation, they're going to adjust the price $5 here and there. But that wasn't true. 2 years later, I had never really looked at the bill, but behind the scenes, the bill was actually broken down with, here's the service and here's the built-in promo code that expires after 24 months.
Yeah.
And so my wife looks at the bill and says, how come the bill's gone from, let's call it 90-ish bucks to $150?
That's a substantial
like
climb.
That. Yeah. Going, well, that's kind of odd. Turns out $5 of it was a recent price increase. They had announced, all good. The rest of it was the $50 a month promo code just disappearing. It expired. So like, of course, this is not cool, right? So I knew what I wanted. I just want them to reapply that same promo code and leave it there in perpetuity.
Fair enough.
And I'm willing to basically threaten to take my business elsewhere if I need to. So I called them up and I immediately asked for the customer retentions department.
Clever.
Because that's important. Now, the customer retentions department is well trained to actually sell, right? So they don't position themselves as, oh, we're trying to stop you from leaving. Let's see how much revenue we can keep here.
Yeah.
They want to shift the conversation and start having you tell them more about, well, how many cell phones do you have? Because you're calling about home internet. Do you have cell phone service? I notice you have cell phone service. It's not with us, is it? No, it's with TELUS. Oh, okay. And how many lines do you have or whatever? They'll start peppering me with questions.
Yeah.
So I went in, I simply said to the nice guy on the phone, I said, hi, I'm calling because, describe the problem. The outcome that I want is the new price. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking forward to having you help me resolve this problem. Simple, right?
Sounds very
Stick
fair.
to your freaking guns. So he said, okay, sure, I can absolutely help you with that. And he starts asking me a couple of, security verification questions. That's fine. Answer those. As soon as he gets on to questions about, let's say, cell phone lines, I said, I'd be happy to talk about that, but let's resolve the reason for my call first.
Clever.
Immediately, just don't let him derail it into a sales pitch where he's going to try to bundle in stuff.
Right, because it's called controlling the frame.
Right, I control the frame exactly. So I also call that recentering sometimes. Here's why I called. They want to sort of drift the camera off over here for a bit.
Yeah.
And I'm recentering it and saying, yes, I'm doing a yes and approach. Okay. Yes, I'd be happy to talk to you about that. And we need to resolve the reason for my call first to my satisfaction. Is that fine with you? Yes, it is. I'm using yes set on him now, right? Okay, so he tells me, yes, in fact, the coupon code did expire. And let me see if I can pull up some other codes. Now, I know this is the equivalent of put me on hold and pretend to go talk to your manager let's say in the used car sales market, right?
Right.
Yeah, sure. That's a good deal on the car. Well, let me see if my manager will approve
accept
that.
it. Yeah.
He goes back and he just chit chats with the manager about any nonsense for 5 or 6 minutes. Comes back and says,
the idea being that there's a microphone in the room and they hear you saying, "Well, I'm not paying more than that," and then they know what to pitch back to you.
Oh, well, it's not even that so much.
That's what makes suspicion.
Yeah, maybe right. But
talk,
they don't actually have. The car salesman's not actually going to his manager and saying, this is what's going on.
Right.
They just go, oh, let's hang out for 5 minutes and then you're going to come back and make this
I tried
offer.
to convince him.
So I knew it. He said, I'm going to work silently. And he's pretending to pull up offers in the system, right?
Okay.
After a few minutes, I just said, hey, are you still there? And he came back and he said, oh, yes, I am. And I said, can we speed this up a little bit? Because I know you're working hard to help me solve this problem today.
Yeah.
But I really need to get going.
Embedded command.
So all of a sudden, oh, yeah, well, it's just the language. I could tell the incongruence. He was lying through his teeth to me
Bastard.
About how he was, the system's almost pulling it up. Oh, okay, yeah, I got it here. And all of a sudden, it's done, right?
Yeah.
Because I asked. And I just didn't let him go down that path anymore. I said, I want you to leave me unmute, like don't mute yourself from now on because I want to make sure that I have a connection with you.
Okay.
And so he listened to that, said, okay. And then anyway, all in all, here's what happened. He started trying to offer me like, well, I can give you a $25 coupon off here in the system. That seems to be the only one I have. And I said, yeah, that's not good enough because I want the full price.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I was told. This is what I want.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that will satisfy me. Fair? Yeah. Okay. Let me check again. Anyway, he turned out, he said to me at the end, because he wanted to seem like he was really working hard for me. He said, so, well, I couldn't come up with this code. This promo code that I came up with wouldn't work, but I logged in with my own account and I generated a special promo code. And, this is what's going to happen. And my bill is now even a few dollars less. So that was the outcome.
Now you did a very good job and your persistence worked. You could have reduced that entire thing.
Understood.
No. One sentence at the beginning.
You'll have to do better than that.
No. The new one, the most effective one of all. Zip up your fly sailor. I'm controlling the frame here.
Oh, man. This zip up your fly sailor. You know what? We're going to do this right now.
This. When it becomes a meme, remember
it's called the zip up your fly sailor intervention. So what? Now, this is one of these things. Do you want to explain the context of where you use this? I think this is important because
I just use it anywhere.
It sounds like it's something inappropriate. And that's the beauty of it.
It's not at all.
So when somebody is, I don't know, ordering lunch and maybe that hamburger special isn't on the menu today.
Right.
You say,
zip up your fly sailor.
The hamburger special's not on the menu today.
Hamburger's off the menu.
Now, why zip up your fly? I mean, anybody, it could have been, a malfunctioned trouser incident,
Trouser? Yeah. Much funnier
the trouser incident. It could be. But people's imagination, they immediately go to inappropriate.
Some sort of sexual act was about
which makes it very funny.
And the fact he's a sailor.
Yes.
It immediately conjures for me that he's in a foreign port. He's just gotten off the Ticonderoga or something. He's got a 3-day pass.
Yes.
And he's in Hong Kong.
And he's doing something inappropriate.
Yeah. And
someone's caught him.
And told him to zip up his fly.
Yes.
They know he's a sailor.
Yes.
They know he's from the Ticonderoga.
So use this on your friends, just in a hilarious way, and report back to us in the comments to let us know what happened.
Here's the universal one I've just come up with. If you can't think of a good ending, you can simply say to any situation, zip up your fly, sailor. The Ticonderoga's sailing now.
That doesn't even, I love that. All right.
Yes.
We're going to wrap this up with one other section here.
Advice for sessions, right?
Yeah. We had a couple of questions. Again, for those of you who are not hypnotists, if you're thinking about becoming one, this might be useful. Otherwise, stick around anyway, because the thing is, how long should it take to help somebody change? There's always people who want to make changes.
Right.
And the question is, how long should it really take, right? So the question here was, how long should a hypnosis session be? Should they be long or should they be short? And what should you work on first? Yeah. So let's give people a bit of advice.
Well, my thing is always deal with what is presenting first. So somebody comes in with a big list of stuff, and I would have asked them, what is going on in your life right now? And that can be helped immeasurably, or even changing it to what intervention, what thing could we deal with today that will give you the maximum benefit to work out in your own life?
Something that will give them momentum, right?
Momentum, get them started with a big benefit. Yeah.
And then would we typically work with short sessions or long sessions? And what does that even mean?
It depends. If some people do marathon sessions, like 3 hours, and I'm not opposed to that. If you're really uprooting a lot of stuff and clearing a lot of stuff, keep the frickin' momentum going.
Yeah.
But that's very seldom. Generally speaking, a 90-minute session I used to have, something like that.
Yeah, I would say 90 is plenty. You're talking interview, full conversation about an intervention, debrief, maybe even scheduling the next session if there needs to be one. Generally, though, the hypnosis portion is probably not longer than 30 minutes. Is my experience.
Max.
Yeah.
Really.
And we've done lots of demonstrations, which are now, of course, in the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy, where you would do little 6-minute interventions. Let's say we were just in the hallway at HypnoThoughts Live at the Sahara Hotel in Las Vegas, and we're there at the conference, and a bunch of people just volunteer for little mini Mike Mandel sessions.
Right.
And they get amazing results, and these were 6 minutes-ish, something like that.
6 was about average.
Yeah. So you can get a lot of results in a very short period of time. you just need a little bit more time when you're needing to gather information, or if you're crafting a slightly longer intervention, maybe a guided imagery with some direct suggestion in hypnosis. It might take half an hour, but probably not longer than that.
Right. And what about repeated sessions? Well, typically speaking, I would deal with stuff like phobias, anxieties in one session.
Right. Smoking cessation.
Give them the tools to continue from there. But things like chronic pain, where people were dealing with horrendous physical harm, they're going to come back for tune-ups.
Right.
Generally speaking, it's going to depend on what their problem is.
And exactly, if the number of problems is numerous,
right,
and they have to fix a lot of different things, they have to fix the way that their inner dialogue works so that they are more in a self-esteem situation. That's a weird way of saying it, but if you need to fix their self-esteem, you need to help them rebuild confidence. You need to help them overcome, let's say, anxieties around speaking in public or something like that. You can see how all these little pieces would tie together, and each of those would become a standalone session typically. So that's why a hypnotherapist will end up doing a multi-session package for people. And also, this is why classical psychotherapists, talk therapists, family counselors, stuff like that, they will learn hypnosis to improve their toolbox of skills so that they're more confident in the work they do, which, guess what, guys? If you're a change worker, means you can charge more money, work few hours, make more money for fewer hours, or just raise your income. So adding hypnosis to your toolbox is worth doing for anyone who is let's say, identifies as a professional people helper.
A professional people
helper. I like that. PPH.
I like it too.
Right, there we go.
Good alliteration.
If you're a professional or want to be a professional people helper, learn hypnosis. That is a fantastic skill.
Which leads us to the empowering question.
All right, here is the empowering question for today. Ask yourself, how will the quality of my life change when I apply one or more of these ways to fall asleep that we talked about at the beginning of the episode? And what will I do with all my extra energy?
Brilliant.
All right. So that is it for podcast 284.
Zip your fly up, sailor. All right. We're done.
Zip your fly up, sailor. And make sure you check the links in the description under this video on YouTube so you can go and check out the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy, which starts for $1 if you want to get started. And remember, after your trial ends and you're a regular member, you get all of our digital products in the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy. If hypnosis training is not your jam, the Brain Software Syndicate will be, because that is the place for smart, motivated people to build awesome lives with personal development skills, and it's ridiculously affordable. So the Brain Software Syndicate, will make sure there's a link in the description under this video. We'll see you in the next video.
Yes,
Thanks
we will.
Once again, and good night.